Okay, guys, do you think we can start? Oh, Anu.
Yes, sure.
Yes. Dipti,
Yes.
where are you? Is she offline?
Her internet is not working. She said she'll join back. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, then we can wait maybe. Just so we can. So I think as a just as a little roadmap, so we all feel a bit calmer and we all know what's going on here. So in the beginning, we just have a little introduction, getting to know each other, because I know that I've talked now to all of you guys, but you haven't talked to each other. So I think it might be nice just to you guys get to know each other and what's just as a person. And then if you feel already comfortable, then you can share already your experience with domestic abuse. And your take on it, and then so everyone will have some time to speak, and then as a second round we will have a look on what shape domestic abuse can have and what's the social cultural context within it, as quite often I guess the social context does take part of it. And in round 2, we will then have a look on what communities and governments are doing, how they're supporting, and as a victim or as a second-hand victim, how can we help, and how can we each other help each other. And I think that's where I would like to end the conversation as well. And like kind of, okay, as a society, as women together, but also men, as a society and as an international society, how can we help each other? What do we need to look out for? And yes, how does that sound like?
Pretty good.
Yeah. And Mercy, don't feel nervous, because that's one of my first fully officially workshops via Zoom with multiple people. That's all good.
I feel like I'm getting better at Zoom. I have one just about every day at this point, so.
It's all good. Manish, do you know, or Anu, do you know? Here. All right, okay.
So so one internet was not working, so then we had to join together. I'll put this on speaker.
Hello.
Sorry about
No, don't be. All right. So is anyone happy to already join and introduce themselves first?
Sure. So I'm Maisie. I am 35 and I live with my family in New Zealand. My partner and I have a small digital marketing business where we do photography and websites, social media for businesses. I'm also just starting out law student, and I work closely with the photographer model scene in New Zealand and support a lot of women in a lot of dangerous situations through that avenue, as well as obviously being a domestic violence survivor as well. That's me.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. How are you guys?
Can I go?
Hello. Yes, please.
Okay. So hi everyone. I'm Dipti. I stay in India, in the west of India, in a city called Pune. I am a mother to a 14-year-old daughter, and the situation in India on today's topic that we're going to discuss is going to be pretty interesting. I guess we here feel that domestic abuse is something that Indians are very prone to, but I'm looking forward to looking at it from the GlobeSpeak perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. And Anu?
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Anuradha.
I also reside in Pune, India. I'm a mother to an 11-year-old boy. I'm a single mother. So yeah, he stays with me throughout the week, and yeah, so we'll get into the details maybe later. But yes, it's I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And just, I mean, you guys know me, but for everyone else who's also listening, I'm Stephanie. I'm a designer and life coach, and working at the moment with people with learning disabilities. I know Manish and Henrik, or like more Manish, via a coaching project, and we all got together in order to share topics, to start a conversation online, as there are so many hot topics at the moment. So last month we've started with COVID-19, as that is a very hot topic. This month, oh hi Miles, he's here. And let him join. Okay, yeah, I'm just continuing quickly. Hi Miles. And these months we're going to talk about domestic abuse. It all started with the question of COVID-19 and how women or people are feeling at the moment in closed spaces at home. Being in a lockdown, having not the opportunity to go and have another safe space rather than home, if that's not your safe space. And I've got to know really cool people, which are now our key speakers, and the conversation just already blew my mind, and I feel kind of that's a fantastic conversation to have also besides COVID-19, as that is a topic we all need to talk about more, I feel. And I feel just sharing stories will help a lot of people outside who also are listening to question themselves. Is the situation I'm living in at the moment an abusive situation, or am I abusive? So I think those are the questions which would be great if listeners in the future or now are able to see and to understand. Yes, and Miles just joined us as well. Hi, Miles.
Hello.
Hello. We just introduced each other. Would you mind doing it as well?
I'm Miles Batty. I am a 32-year-old. I live in London. I'm an event planner. I'm in a relationship at the moment. I'm thankfully quite a pleasant, healthy one at the moment. Although in the past, I've had a bit of sort of I kind of a brush with risk in the sense that that I almost got married to somebody who was quite emotionally abusive, and had been in a relationship with her for 3 years. It was quite an experience, I think. I went through the whole roller coaster of of emotions and self-perception, which can be related to having somebody who sort of treats you in a very controlling manner, and wants to sort of define your life how she wants it to be, rather than let you live your own life. And I think at the time, most of the time, I might have thought that was quite normal. I might have thought that was just part and parcel of having a sort of a serious relationship. But it took me quite a while to realise that was really not healthy, and that was something that I needed to not be in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Miles, for joining us as well. Yes, if you feel, I think you've already mentioned a topic which is quite interesting, as you did not know that you've been into a situation which was domestic violence or abusive. So my question to all of you guys, or whoever would like to start, what was your experience within the past or maybe present about domestic abuse?
I need to get that.
Yeah, Dipti?
Yeah, I'm asking Anu if
Oh, you're mute.
okay.
Yes.
I'll get the headset and come. Both of us
Okay.
are here, so we need to, yeah.
Okay. I'll go first.
Yeah.
Let me start with domestic abuse in the current situation of COVID-19 for India. I did a little bit of research, for the last couple of days, where India as a region understands domestic abuse only as domestic violence. I mean, as a country, we do not understand the difference between getting abused mentally or harassment and a physical abuse. So most of the research that has been done in India, or most of the data points that I gathered, were around domestic violence. And that is something I would like to put forth to this panel, and as a highlight that, in India today, during COVID-19 situation, domestic violence has gone up by 158%, especially against women. Of course, due to job losses, due to the family members feeling the pressure, and led by the economic. For the last 2.5 or 3 weeks, women have a way to lodge their complaint to the police, and police are giving them shelter in shelter homes by rescuing them from their homes and giving them shelter during the situation until the condition of lockdown stabilizes. So that's how we are looking at India as a region in the current situation. Having said that, I would also like to highlight that here women or men do not understand domestic abuse if it is not physical violence. Okay, so I don't know how to extract that data of outrage of modesty, insults, being questioned, or whatever kind of abuse. I don't know how to get that data because that data is not clear according to the WHO website for India. Having said that, I think I would open the discussion right now for COVID-19 as a situation, and then I will go as we proceed, or as we progress in the discussion, I would go back to the experiences that I have faced from a domestic abuse perspective.
Yes.
Open to discussion. Yeah.
Thank you, Anu. Aditi, sorry, for sharing. Yeah, I guess, Mercy, as I remember we talked a lot about your experience as well. What is your experience about domestic abuse?
So yeah, I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
First relationship out of high school, I was 17, and I met a guy who was about 4 years older than me, and naturally kind of gravitated towards him due to the fact that he was older than me. He was going to parties. It was kind of an exciting lifestyle for me to get drawn into as a 17-year-old. and I was having problems with my family at the time, so he asked me to move in with him, which I thought, yeah, great idea, get out of my parents' house, you know. But as soon as I was living with him, things became very controlling, very, very emotionally abusive. I think I gave you some brief examples of basically, you know, he would ask me to admit something that wasn't true, but, you know, he would go on about it for days, and eventually I'd get sick of hearing it. So I'd just go, fine, yep, that I lied about this. And then he would be like, okay, well, I'm not speaking to you for 3 days as punishment. So I'd be, you know, stuck in a house with someone for days on end who wouldn't even look in my direction, you know, like and it would just make you feel sick. He threatened to kill my cat because he thought I was lying about things. I couldn't dress how I wanted to dress. I wasn't allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to see my family. And I did that for just over 3 years until I finally got out. And then I went from that into another domestic violence situation because I clearly hadn't learned my lesson that I didn't deserve to be treated like that, because I'd been so belittled that I just thought that was normal. I thought it was an absolutely normal relationship. It was my first relationship. And I really ruined the next person I was with because I thought that to love someone meant that you had to physically fight them if you guys were arguing. I completely thought that was normal. So I really had to do a lot of work on myself for about 10 years afterwards and work out what a healthy, normal relationship was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess.
A brief rundown.
Yeah, I guess a partner can make you feel belittled. In that
I mean,
way.
of course, there was physical abuse as well, but for me, the mental abuse was far worse than the physical abuse.
Yeah. How was it for you, Anna? What's your story?
Yeah, so I completely understand and relate to, not completely, but yes, a lot with what Massey is saying. It's the emotional abuse. It's definitely much more. From what I know, those who go through physical abuse know that better. But yes, physical abuse kind of breaks you, is what my experience has been. Is that due to with emotional and mental abuse day in and day out, where you feel belittled, you feel insulted at every time, and you're questioned on everything, and you start doubting yourself. You lose your confidence, and you are not sure of anything. It just turns a person into something else, is what I have experienced in my own marriage. So which I trust me, I did not understand it, that I was going through an abuse for many years, for around 8 years. I did not even understand that. When I started understanding it and kind of putting my foot down, that's when it surfaced to an extent where I started realizing and understanding what has been happening for so many years with me, where I have lost my confidence. I feel guilty about things that I haven't done or I'm not even sure about. And it's kept happening for so many years. And sometimes I feel it would have been better to just indulge in a fight and, do a brawl and a physical hitting each other and get away with it than, getting into being in that for so many years and completely losing yourself.
Yeah.
So it's terrible. And I believe in India, many women go through, and even men, I believe, go through emotional abuse much more. So when it comes to physical abuse is when the realization comes forth. But
yeah, I think especially the social context plays a massive role in here as well. You've mentioned. So when I've planned the whole conversation, my thought was straight to women and to help women. And then just talking to you guys, I think either it was Dipti or Anu mentioned that, well, what about men? And so I've contacted Miles, as we were at one point housemates as well. And I lived with his partner as well, which was an eye-opener. So I think, Miles, if you feel ready to share your story. Yeah.
Sure. I think I heard a worrying stat the other day that apparently in the UK, so 25% of domestic violence happens to men, and often in gay relationships as well as straight relationships. But despite that figure, which obviously is lower than women, but is still serious, there is only one domestic violence shelter in the entire country for men, whereas all of the other domestic violence shelters in the country are designed for women. And I think there's a big stigma when domestic violence or domestic abuse of any kind is happening to men, and men are much less likely to recognise that it's happening, and certainly are very unlikely to admit that it is happening, even if they do recognise it. I think one of the things that Maisie said that struck a chord with me is that she mentioned that sometimes you might not be allowed to see your family by your partner, and that's a really it's a really big warning sign, like a red flag for domestic situations, because your family are hopefully your family are a normalising presence in some way. Your family care about you even when you're at your worst. They want the best for you. They want you to have a healthy life, even if you're not like making their life better. Even if you're not like being exactly the person they want you to be. So your family in particular, but also your friends, are a kind of a normalizing presence. They can kind of anchor you to the outside world, because if you get into a long-term relationship, especially where you're cohabiting, living together with your partner, and your partner decides everything and decides how you live and what life is like and what's okay and what's not okay, what the rules are. This relationship means you have to tell me every time you go out of the house. You have to tell me where you're going to go. You have to tell me who you're hanging out with. Oh, you hanging out with that person? I don't like you hanging out with that person. You're not allowed to hang out with that person. That makes me upset. I'm going to be upset at you if you do that. Those kinds of behaviours are very, very controlling. And the reason to be that controlling, whether it is conscious or unconscious, is very often because if somebody who is being emotionally abused actually talks to people about it, talks to people deeply about it, who they care about, specifically their family or their friends, very close friends, if they actually sort of take what is quite a normal situation in their head, because they're not actually being physically assailed in lots of cases. Maybe they're not actually being hit or beaten up. They don't think of it as being domestically abused. They just think of it as maybe I'm being treated badly. I must be doing it wrong somehow. So what happens is they think of it as normal. They normalise the situation, and then only when you actually talk to, in a very deep way, your family or your friends, and you sort of say, is that normal for a long-term relationship, for someone to treat their partner like that? They will probably say no. Actually, no, they shouldn't be saying where you can be and what you can do, and they shouldn't be, trying to force you to say things you don't want to say. They shouldn't be threatening to kill your cat. They shouldn't be, they shouldn't be doing all kinds of things that they are doing. That's not normal, and also recognizing that you are compromised. Your own perception of yourself has been compromised by this relationship. Your perception of the other person, you might see them as being some wise and knowledgeable figure who understands what's going on at the moment, and you might see yourself as being quite sort of weak and ineffective as a person. That's all compromised. You need to get that outside perspective. I think with COVID-19, it makes a particular emphasis on this because of the fact that we're stuck in our homes in a much greater way than we would otherwise be.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that also that understanding and having that outside perspective. So my question to you guys is, Dipti, you've mentioned that especially emotional abuse is not stigmatized as abuse. And I remember reading a study, I think it was from the 50s. It was an American study where it was saying that I can't remember the percentage, but a very little amount of women are sexually abused, which was 2, 3, 5%, which we all know it was wrong, but because the numbers were not showing the reality, as society was not seeing it as an abuse. So my question now, I guess for all of us as well, how was it as verbally, like, first of all, realizing that, all right, that's the situation I am here, I am getting abused in whatever way, and how was it then, how was the stigma going outside, talking to people? How did everyone else looked at you and talked to you? What was, yeah. So
yeah. So if I had to take that question, I think the biggest challenge that I think all of us have faced in our situations is, or our experiences that we went through, is the awareness.
mm-hmm.
The awareness of, you know, where each one of us has to draw the line. Each one of us has that circle around us where, you know, we take care or we nurture our self-respect, our confidence, our pride, in whatever we do or whatever we are. Okay. And there are people who keep crossing that line, and just because we love them, we let them do it, thinking that because they love us, it's okay, and because we love them, it's okay. But there is a certain line that is drawn around each one of us, which is the circle for ourselves. I don't know what it's called, but I know I have it for me. And the awareness that this line should not be crossed by whoever, and that space is mine, mine to love, to nurture, to hold on to, you know, something called self-love or self-respect. I think that awareness is missing. And I don't think any one of us were aware of the fact that, you know, we were getting abused in some way or the other. So I'll share my experiences of life now. While I got married very, very early in life, and, you know, since then till date, I haven't faced any situation of any kind of abuse, be it mental or physical. My experiences have been of being abused as a child. When I was being brought up, you know, in this concept called, I don't know if you guys know or aware, I'm sure you are, in India, of joint family, where we have 10, 12 people in the family. And there are 3 heads of families, which is grandfather, uncle, and dad. And they all have their own way of dealing with their respective nuclear families. So that situation itself is very, very overwhelming for the children in India. Okay, coming to me, I faced, while my parents never abused us directly. They loved us, they took care of us, they brought us up with immense amount of love. They abused each other, and without realizing the kind of effect their children, who are two daughters, having while we were witnessing the abuse. Tremendous violence, mental abuse, harassment with each other. I will not blame any of them, any single one of them. They were both into it. One, because the one who was doing it, the second one, because the second one was bearing it or taking it. So I will hold both the parties responsible in the situation. It was a traumatizing experience as a child, living day in and day out, hating to come back home from school or from college, and just making excuses to be out of house at that age. When I was 8, 9, 10, I used to, probably take my bicycle, and just go cycling, into a university campus, wanting to be out of home because there was something going on there. At that age, I did not realize, or I did not understand how to take care of it, because, and nobody knew what I, as a child, was going through, or my little sister as a child was going through, but we just lived with it. Till the time we were old enough to make our own decisions, and I said, I want to get married. Old enough. I hit 18 and I said I want to get married. And so for me, getting married to the one I love, who I knew is not an abuser of any sort, was my way of getting out of the situation. And I think I did the right thing. I got out of the situation. However, I would love to share this experience, that after getting into that institution at a very young age, I had the baggage of the situations that I had seen as a child, and I carried those baggages with me. And my husband is really wonderful to take that baggage off my back slowly and steadily. And I'm sure he faced that brunt a little bit of the bag, or that weight a little bit of the baggage that I was carrying. But very early in life, in our married life, he took it off my back, while I'm sure he faced it himself in some way or the other. But he helped me come out of it only by one thing, by making me aware of my rights, my space that I had, making me aware that he's not going to cross it, making me aware that I should not be crossing his, and then building our relationship as a married couple, and now having a 14-year-old daughter. And I'm proud to say that I don't think any one of us ever abuses in any way each other, even my dogs or my cats for that matter, and feel belittled or underconfident or demeaned by any one of us. So my journey has been a little reverse, and that is why I wanted to share it with Miles and Nessa and you. And I know, of course, she's a childhood friend, so she knows it all. So yeah.
I feel your story is very brave and very lucky as well. As I remember you, Messi, you said as well that as soon as first everything was okay, and then as soon as you moved into that, within that person together, then everything started flipping. And I guess running away, or like marrying someone in a very young age, to run away from a very traumatic experience, to make the right choice, there's a lot of luck into account as well, and a lot of matureness as well, as I think you, Miles, at one point mentioned as well. So my question now to all of you as well, so and Izzy joined us as well. I'm not sure. Hi, Izzy. Lizzie. I'm not sure if you would like to share anything, or if you would like to listen. Let me know if you want to share anything. Yeah, you're welcome. And for now, how, if you think back of the situation, what made you realize you've been abused, and what gave you enough maturity to step out of the situation? Or a lot of strength, or I don't know how I can call that.
I guess I started to realize when I think I told you that my best friend's mum turned up at my house one day,
Yeah.
and she was just crying, and I just remember being so confused, like looking at her thinking, why is she turn up to my house crying? She's never done this before. And she just said, I'm so worried about you. You're covered in bruises. And I was like, I'm fine. You know, I just, in my head, I was still fine, and I hadn't actually realized what I was going through. And I think maybe that triggered something, because my family wasn't speaking to me at this point, so I didn't really have anyone. I'd been isolated from everyone except for his friends. So I think maybe her turning up, it was someone, like Miles said, from my permanent world, had kind of rocked up and had woken me up a little bit. It was probably another 2 years after that before I actually got out, but that wasn't through lack of trying. I actually really we actually broke up for one point, but my family life was really turbulent, and so when I went back home, things were really bad, and I think I was only home for maybe 1 or 2 months, and then I just went back with him because I felt like I didn't have a safe place, and it was kind of the lesser of two not very good situations at that point, because he was begging me to come back. So I went back, and things were good for a little while. And then, yeah, I actually got to the point where I waited for him to go to work one day, and we had a spare room, and I went and took every single thing that belonged to me from our house, and I put it in the spare room. And I said, when he came home, I said, I am moving out. All of my things are here, and I'm getting my friends to come and help me to move me out. And I went to work, and when I came back, he had put everything back where it belonged in the house. And he said, this is your home, you're not leaving. And it took me maybe another 3 or 4 months to actually, you know, get a couple of big guys around and be like, yep, she's leaving. So yeah, and then it took me a good couple of years to build up my relationship with my family again. They weren't very supportive because I had been a very angry and bitter and quite a nasty person to be around. With all the verbal and emotional abuse, I became extremely awful, and I don't blame them for turning their backs on me. So it took me a really long time to kind of build those relationships up again. Start to work on myself a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it must be a long process, and maybe just not one happening is enough. Maybe there need to be more happenings at the right time within the right intensity to say you need to get out there for yourself.
I think it does definitely take I know there's like quite a high average for abuse victims to leave their abusers. I'm not quite sure what the statistics are, but I know it takes maybe like 7 goes to leave an abuser. I definitely felt like it took me a lot longer than that, but
yeah. How was it for you, Miles? Or for you, Anna? Yes, please.
I just wanted to add that I think what is most important is to, the moment you realize, start acting on it. I think after realization also, it takes a long while for you to accept it, that okay, you are going through it and you need to get out of it. Because as women, we still try and make it work, even though you know that you are going through some abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. You want to make it work. But I think for abusers, for those who abuse, it's never going to change unless you walk out, is what my experience has been. How much ever you try to make it work, try to make them change, it's not going to help, because that's what they do. So you can't do much about it. So I think the moment you realize it, you should get out of it, is what I feel, to avoid it further, to not keep going through that abuse over and over.
What do you think can help a person to walk out, to get the
Sorry?
strength? What do you think, especially if you live in a societal, like let's say in India, where emotional abuse, especially if it's mentally, but also physically, if that's a stigma which is, you don't really have help from the police or from the outside, or like even from your family.
Yeah.
What do you do? What can you do as a woman?
I think for me, what is most important is believe in yourself, first thing. You be sure that you want to get out of it, or you want to stay, make it work, whatever it is. In your head, you need to be very clear. Once you are clear about it, you are sure about it, I think you just get the strength. I don't know from where, but you just get it.
Yeah.
Once you have the strength, once you get it yourself, then it doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't matter who is helping you, who is not helping you. In some cases, I understand that the partner is so what do you say, heavy on you, or so overpowering that it's difficult for you to get the courage to get out of it. Just take whatever help you can get. For me, Dipti was there, her husband, family, my family. Although, yes, as in India, it is the way it is, my parents were not very happy about it, but they helped, they supported me in my decision. They believed in me that, okay, she's the one who is suffering and we have to stand by her. They didn't understand it, but they were there. So just catch hold of whoever is there to support you, to get you out of there, and show that you have the strength, the courage. And I think it just has to fall in place once you get it within you. And that has to happen whenever, slowly, gradually, quickly. If it's an instant, if it's that one moment where you just decide you need to run, you need to run. That's it. Then there should be no looking back or waiting. Yeah, that's what I think.
I think that's
It has
very
to just come
powerful.
from within. Yeah.
Yeah. How was your experience, Miles? I feel you have a lot to share here. And excuse me as well, just to drop in, I keep saying for women. I think it's so still my stigma that it's all just women who experience that, even though I know it's for men as well. So please excuse me, Miles.
Yeah. And let's face it, it is a lot tougher on women when men are physically able to overpower them in a different way. But I don't think you can really do it alone. And I think if you're in a really controlling relationship, then the irony is that the fact that the relationship is very controlling and overbearing is what means you need to leave it. But the fact that it's really controlling and overbearing makes it harder to leave it, because you try and leave and you can't get away, and it's because you're not being taken seriously by your partner, who is like, no, what do you mean you're leaving? Oh, this is just a strop. This is just you're just acting out. You're not actually needing to leave, and if you're feeling very controlled, then you can't leave. And part of the reason you can't leave is because you don't have the confidence to know that actually you will be supported. So you won't be supported by your partner. You're used to getting all of your support from your partner. And what you have to do is you have to lean elsewhere for support. Now, the things that will extricate yourself from what is now your life. If your life now involves cohabiting with your partner, it involves everything that you do as a pair, and the two of you together. and things like that. It's actually really, really difficult. It's a complete life change. So you have to be really certain in order to make that sort of decision. And that's why it's very, very difficult. And that's why you can try and fail to leave so many times.
Oh, I think.
And whatnot. I think that my family and my friends for a long time had been very reluctant to say to me how they really felt about my relationship and stuff. And they've been worried because you have to be brave. You have to assume, oh, something's wrong. And hang on a minute, if I tell Miles that actually I think he's being, he's being under the thumb, he's being abused, whatever, will he snap at me and say, why are you saying bad things about my partner? Who knows? You don't know what's going to happen there. So your family have.
Oh. I think his connection is a bit bad. Yeah, I can't hear him either.
No.
Oh,
No,
wait, he's coming back. Ah, hi, we've lost you.
Hopefully back now. Okay, I'll try again. Yes, if your family feel like there's something wrong, if your friends feel like there's something wrong, then they have to be actually quite brave to actually confront you about it. I think that's especially the case if it's a man being abused, because men are often seen in society to be, they must be in control of their own affairs. He must know, he must understand what he's going through. It must be fine. Maybe he's got it under control. Everything's fine, and then much less likely to get sympathy when they're in a situation where there's no obvious threat. And men are unlikely to get beaten up by female partners. It does happen, but it's rare, and therefore you're not going to likely see black eyes, bruises, this kind of stuff. So what you're going to see the man just not acting his normal self. You're going to see him acting maybe low confidence, a bit weak, a bit deferential, a bit glum, miserable, and just sort of not really acting as they are. The added complication for me was that I had a wedding coming up in about 3 months' time that lots and lots of people were very excited about. So family, friends, everybody had an invite. They were like, we were planning it. It was going to be exciting. It's going to be a really cool day, and everybody was buying into this whole wedding and this whole marriage thing, which made it extra complicated because not only are you telling everyone, I'm going to be leaving this relationship, but you're also telling everyone that plan that they had is no longer valid, and everything that they've invested in your relationship from outside is kind of all wasted. So that's really, really difficult. That's an extra complexity. I don't know what it's like. If you're married, obviously there's a complexity in trying to get out of if you're already married, and if you've got sort of your families know each other and these kinds of things. It's got to be very, very complicated. The only way I think that you can really get out is when you know that people will support you. When you have an idea that actually people will sympathise with your situation, and that your life will not be over the minute you leave, because your life will change drastically. If you're in a very, very close and controlling relationship and then you leave it, you're taking a massive break from your life, and everything is going to change. You're probably going to be leaving wherever you're living. In my case, I was actually kicked out of my own house. That was fun. I went and stayed with a friend for a couple of weeks, and then managed to get a new place. But that was quite alarming. It was a really difficult experience to be actually told you're not welcome in your own home, that you are paying rent for. That's difficult. So it upsets your life in a really big wedding coming up, and not to mention telling everyone disappointing news. The only way you can really go through with that, because you have to take about out of a relationship like that. I think the only way you can actually go through with it is if you know that you will have support from the other in your life. You will have friends who say, don't worry, we support you. We know you're going through a tough time. We sympathize. We're not just going to ridicule you for making the wrong decision, for getting out of a relationship that we thought was a good one. You need to trust that your friends and your family will actually look after you, and will be there for you, and will believe your decision was the right one. We'll trust your decision. We'll not kind of question it and second guess it, because that will just send you spiraling back.
Very true.
Yeah. If you have anything, it was really powerful. Thank you, Mars.
I was just going to add to that and say that, I was married for 7 years as well, and my marriage was not particularly healthy, given my history and the combination of the people we were. So it was quite abusive in a lot of ways as well, and having two small children, trying to get out of that situation, I think I was in the headspace of remembering leaving my ex-partner, and I had nobody to help me. I had maybe, I think, 2 friends that turned up to help me in that situation. But when I went to leave my husband, I had my mum there and my family and my friends, and sure, some of his friends decided that he was in the right and I was the wrong, and that whenever you get separated, you've always got people who want to pick sides, and that's fine. But I think having the support there and going, I am going to be a single mum, I'm going to be on my own, but actually I'm going to be a hell of a lot happier on my own, with 2 little kids, like 1 and 3, than doing this day in and day out. And I think knowing that I had the support was enough for me to go, let's do it.
Yeah, it's commendable with 2 children and little children, and then deciding to do things on your own. It's really commendable. So for me, this is better. So I was married for 10 years, and 4 years I kind of struggled to understand that I am being abused, and then took time to get out of it. So for me, it was more like I took such a long time to understand this, because when I got married, I was really young. I was like a child, not a child marriage kind of thing, but yes, I was very young and immature is what I would say. And so even after my marriage, I was continued being treated as an immature person, which went on for a long time. And since there was quite some age gap between me and my ex-husband, around 6 to 7 years, and he was very mature, so then he kept treating me like a child. For some years it was okay. I was like, okay, I was the child of the family always. I was the little one in my parents' family as well. It was all right. And then I started giving my opinions, putting my foot down about things, and that's when it kind of went spiral. And so I was kind of being put down in front of people, my own family and friends, where it was always like, okay, what I said, my word was not given any importance or any weightage, because she doesn't understand anything. That was the kind of opinion that was shown. And honestly speaking, I was told by those who witnessed it, before even I realized it myself, my family and my friends, when they saw it happen, they kind of started questioning that, are you not realizing that this is what is happening? And why are you taking this kind of nonsense? That's when I started paying more attention to it myself, okay, this is what has been happening. And whenever there's a discussion, whenever I need to discuss, or there was something that we needed to speak about, it always went back to all those years, 8 years, 7 years, sit down, blame each other, him blaming me more for little things that I did or I didn't do, which I did not even remember, which are quite natural or normal in a normal marriage is what I thought, that okay, these kind of things happen. That's how I started going into a guilt trip, that I was not, I was the one who did not work hard towards this marriage, or I'm the one who kept, I'm destroying this kind of a feeling that I kept having. So that kept happening, and for a long time I lost all my confidence and everything, and I kept blaming myself, feeling guilty about things not working out. And I had my baby, and then bringing him up, not having him witness the way that he said that as a child, it's a traumatic experience. I didn't want him to see any of it, or see the fights we were having, or the arguments or discussions that we were having. And that's when then actually Dipti consulted a psychiatrist on my behalf, that this is what is happening to her, and she's the one who suggested to her that okay, this is not going to help, this is not going to change, it's a narcissistic behavior, and you should ask your friend to get out of it. So yeah, till then I didn't even kind of know this word, what is narcissism and how it impacts one, and how it brings you down and changes you as a person. And so I took the advice, and I ran, and I had to really fight, because nobody knew in the family what this means. Nobody understood. They were blaming me. They said that you are probably not blaming me as such, but they were saying that it's not a big deal, From those who see from outside, it doesn't seem like a big deal. In fact, he's the, what do you say, a perfect match, and he's the, what do you say, an epitome of the right man, kind of a, that's the feeling everyone gets. But internally, inside, what is it doing to me? Nobody could understand it. So I had to fight for myself. And then, I don't know, my luck or bad luck, I don't know, but after I got out of this, my cousin, who is in US, who is in California, he faced the same thing to a much more higher level. He was going through, he was living with a narcissistic for 5-6 years, that to one who was violent as well. And then that came forth in front of my family. That's when they kind of little started understanding what I went through. So yeah, it is very difficult when you can't see from outside, the trouble when somebody is going through, and people don't understand in the society. They feel that okay, these things are okay. These things are okay for people for partners, for people staying in a marriage. It's okay to go through these, but it's not okay. That is something that they don't understand, and it's both ways. It's a man, it's a woman. It doesn't matter. The emotional trauma is emotional trauma for anybody. It really doesn't matter how it is. It's just a matter of realizing it yourself, and not caring if somebody else really, approves it or no. I don't think it's necessary to seek anyone's approval. If you know what it is, however small, however big it seems to others, it doesn't matter. And then it's been 5 years now. Yeah, it took me four years to regain my confidence, and the fact that okay, I am good enough to stand on my own feet and survive, and get back, work. Fortunately, I'm working for a very good company now, at a very good position, and it took a long time to gain that confidence back in myself, and then showing it to others that I have it still in me, kind of a thing, and then yeah, it's good now. It's amazing. I'm sure Massey agrees with me that it's good.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was very powerful, and I guess and also I think for everyone who's watching, or like also in future, if we are uploading that on YouTube, I feel whoever's watching out there, and if you feel there's something you might face, you're not quite sure, contact us, because I think that's what I got from you guys, that you're in a situation you can't probably even explain it very well, because there are not you don't have the words for it, like narcissism. If you say the word narcissism, everyone knows what it is, but try to explain that to someone.
Yeah.
Without even yourself realizing what's happening with you. You don't really have the words for it. You are not able. I think that's quite hard to explain that to your friend. To say, all right, okay, I'm in that relationship, and that person is bouncing back then that word narcissism. And we are now, as we all have Zoom, very fortunate that we have the internet. We have an opportunity to be alone in a room, to be able to Google and to research stuff. A lot of our societies, a lot of people are not. And I guess you all faced probably a time in your life where just Googling might be even hard, researching or getting that courage to it. Yes, I think it was a fantastic. You shared so many stories. Absolutely brilliant. Just to slowly close our call, for everyone out there, or kind of what's your advice for people who might be abusive or might be in an abusive situation? Do you have anything more to share?
I guess, like, obviously in abusive situations, you do get your family and friends pushed away from you, but even if you can just keep one person close to you that you can trust, that can be your lifeline, who believes you and can support you, then yeah, when you do get strong enough, then that can be your one person to help you get out.
Yeah, totally agree there. It really helps, and I think it should be just one person, because many people confuse you. The lesser the better.
No, so for me, if I have
The
to...
person who has your interests at heart is really, really important.
Sorry, go on, Miles. Go on.
Sorry, say it again, Miles.
So couldn't hear you there. Choosing somebody who's definitely got your interests at heart. It's really, really important to find somebody who isn't invested in the relationship, isn't invested in the partner, but is invested in you and cares about you. And that could be because they care about you because they've cared about you for a long time, because maybe they're a family member or something like that. Or it could be that they care about you because they just don't care about your relationship or your partner, because they're very impartial. So maybe somebody who actually hasn't even met your partner and doesn't even know you that well, but just can be an independent, impartial piece of advice that's there. And I think that you need to be willing and able to extract yourself from the situation. Just going back to COVID-19 and the fact that we're all kind of a bit locked down, a little bit tied to our houses in a way that we weren't maybe before. I know that there have been, certainly in the UK, in terms of restrictions to lockdown, there have been a number of political discussions around people who are dealing with difficult domestic issues actually being an exception to various rules. So if the government says you shouldn't be visiting your relatives or something like that, they might say, well, actually, in some circumstances, like if you're dealing with domestic abuse, it is absolutely okay and completely reasonable for your own health to be able to go to maybe a friend or relative's house and stay there for a few days, even if that breaks the classic lockdown rule that you might be told to follow, because it's actually really, really important for your health to be able to get out of that environment, which is difficult for you. And I would encourage people to consider all of their options and not feel trapped, because if you feel trapped, that is where you will stay.
Yeah, they're definitely doing that in New Zealand as well. They've said that, you know, of course we're in our own little bubbles at the moment, but if you are in a situation where you're unsafe, break your bubble. You know, I think it's just, you know, there's extenuating circumstances, and you have to consider all the factors, basically. So
yeah. So for me, if I have to you know, give away something to the viewers or the watchers of this video, I would just say that be aware of the situation that you are in. If you're facing any kind of domestic abuse, just know that love or care or people who love you will not demean you, will not belittle you. They should not insult you or they should not be a cause of trouble for you in any way. If anyone in your house, your family, or since we're talking about domestic abuse, then they don't love you enough or they don't deserve you. It's okay to walk out. Just believe in yourself, walk out. Life finds a way out for you. Nobody just, there is never a situation where there's no way out. There always is a way out. Just gather that courage for that moment and get out of there and love yourself at that time the most. And I'm sure everyone who takes that decision, makes that decision for themselves, they do well. They find the right path. But don't take
Nobody
abuse.
needs to take it.
Nobody needs to take abuse at home, because nobody who loves you will do that to you. That's all.
Can I just say something for any men out there who think, oh, maybe this never happened to me, like, or whatever. I think domestic abuse and unhealthy relationships can happen to anyone, absolutely anyone. It doesn't matter how excellent a person you are, it doesn't matter how in control you are, or how how much a master of your own destiny is, and admitting and talking about and allowing and accepting the fact that you might be in a relationship which is damaging to your own health, physically, psychologically. It should not belittle you. Like, it could happen to anybody. It does not make you less of a man, does not make you less of a person. So do not believe for 1 second that just because you approach your friend and say, actually, I think that actually I'm not being treated well, I'm not being treated right, and there's some sense in which this is beyond my control, do not feel like that's going to push you right back down to the bottom of the social sort of queue or whatever it is. It can happen to absolutely anybody, and you have to acknowledge that it's not weakness to talk to people about it, and to, in confidence to express yourself, and to say, actually, sometimes I don't have all the answers, I don't have control of the situation, I need help. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic ending. And if anyone here needs help, or everyone who's listening, just contact us if you have no one else. And yes, you're going to be all good. Going to be all
Yes,
good in the end.
Definitely.
Right, thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I think it has been really empowering, at least for me, and I hope for you guys as well. Also hearing that we're all in the same boat, and that absolutely no one is alone, ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think.
Thank you, Steph.
Steph, this has been a fantastic session.
Yes.
Messy, Miles, amazing to get to know you both. Please keep in touch. I will connect with you, and let's talk more.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
it was such a pleasure to meet all of you, Miles, Messi, and Steph. And I wish you all the best in your life, and hope you have a happy life, all of you.
Fantastic.
Thanks, guys. It's been really nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Lucy, if you ever want to share anything as well, just feel free, you know how to contact me.
Just know that the people who you love should be your strength and not your weakness. So you don't have to take anything. Yeah.
Exactly. And any silly weaknesses. Yes, especially silly ones. All right. Then have a
Thank you, guys.
fantastic
Thanks,
day.
everyone. It
And
was
good night,
fantastic.
good morning, whatever.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Bye.